They came to us for basically a grant, right? And they have succeeded. Joe, can you expand on that a little more, please?
Well, in the part of the attraction for DS Smith with the City of Lebanon and Molly Whitehead with the Boone EDC is here also to speak on it if needed. Part of the economic development incentive, we're training dollars to be reimbursed, and this is the city's reimbursement. We are the pass-through, and these are things that are already agreed to. Just a matter of taking an action to be able to release and execute that.
Okay. Molly, do you have anything further to say? Molly with Boone County EDC.
Yeah, Molly Whitehead, Executive Director of the Boone EDC. It's actually not a training grant, it's infrastructure grant is what it is. For those of you who are new to the RDC since this was passed about a year ago, this was an award from the state of Indiana to the City of Lebanon through the RDC for the benefit of the company. So the company incurs the expense, they go through that entire process, and simply we just kind of have to be that go-between to get them reimbursed. Okay. Correct.
So is that a grant from the state, or?
Correct.
Okay, how long, is there a time limit?
Yeah, so it goes through, technically it goes through December 31st of 2020. However, the company is completing work on that infrastructure that was covered under this grant. So we'll be seeking reimbursement for that, I would suggest, by the end of this year. And so we'll just kind of get that wrapped up. But to your points earlier, the Redevelopment Commission had already signed that contract, so the contract is done. This is just an agreement between the RDC and the company or their building owner and/or their building owner, just to formalize that agreement.
Okay. Any further questions from the commissioners or comments? I will entertain a motion to pay the bill. What was the sum again?
It's actually just a motion to approve the reimbursement agreement, and then once they submit their first draw, which would be the $150,000, they'll be at a later date.
Okay.
They'll probably just submit it all at once.
All at once,
So you'll see
okay.
about a $300,000 come through it.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the reimbursement grant agreement.
I second.
Motion's first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say same. I vote aye as well for yes, sorry. Motion passes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Next item, do you have a question, Tony?
Does this need?
It can be signed after.
Okay, got it.
Next item on the new business list is the Lebanon 39 Bridge Inspection Supplemental Agreement, and Kevin with the City Engineering is here to fill us in on the details.
Yes, thank you. This is supplemental number 5, and this is associated with our 39 bridge over I-65 and the decorative attachments that were installed on that bridge. If you might remember, this has been a source of conversation over the last couple of years. When the bridge was originally approved, NDOT put some stipulations that we had to inspect those bridge attachments quarterly. And we did that for a couple of years, and really starting about 2 years ago, we had started having some successful inspections. I think we'd kind of worked some bugs out of the mounting system that secured the decorative panels to the bridge, and over the years those inspections have been better and better. They've not found deficiencies like they did the first couple of inspections that required the state to issue that quarterly inspection program. So about this time last year is when we did our last inspection. It was November of 2018. And at that point, we had already convinced the state to let us to go to 6-month inspection cycles. So really, we were working off of a contract that dates back to 2017 that I think included 4 inspections. And we were able to stretch that out, not quarterly, but over 2 years. And now we found out earlier this summer that the inspection again was successful last November. and so successful that we were successfully able to lobby the state to allow us to go to yearly inspections. So what I have for you tonight is supplemental number 5 to inspect the bridge one more time. We would inspect it, we would anticipate inspecting it before, over the next 30 days before we get into the winter months, but it does need to be inspected in 2019. And then you can expect one of these supplements to come up every year as we inspect the bridge. The normal NBIS inspection program is a 2-year cycle, but given that this is a unique situation with these decorative attachments, I don't think we will be successful in letting us go to the standard 2-year inspection program, although assuming we have a very successful inspection in the next 30 days like we have in the last year, we will make that request that we go to the standard inspection cycles. But for right now, before you tonight is supplemental number 5. It's to an existing USI Consultants contract for bridge inspection that you've had in place, I think, going back to 2015. Supplemental number 5 is for $22,700 for one more inspection. The reason the inspections are as expensive as they are, one, they are inspecting the majority of the fasteners on the bridge, and that requires detouring traffic underneath the bridge to close one lane at a time so that the inspectors that are looking at the bridge are not hanging off the side of the bridge over traffic. So if there's any questions or concerns, happy to answer those, but I'm asking for an approval for supplemental number 5 for USI Consultants for $22,700 for bridge inspection.
Any further questions or comments from the commissioners?
Kevin, do you anticipate the 22 plus would be the annual from this point forward?
You know, it's hard for me to say, looking back through the supplements, and I haven't been here since the beginning, but it appears we've been paying $22,700 per inspection for, I think, about 3 or 4 years. So they've not raised the price on us, which, in my opinion, is pretty generous that we're paying the same inspection rate today as we did 3 years ago. But I couldn't tell you as to what it might be this time next year when we're considering it.
Not that I'm encouraging this, but my experience with NDOT, and this is an NDOT requirement, consultant fees typically go up on average about 3% a year. So the fact that they've stayed at 22.7 is very generous of them, and I'm no way soliciting for them to come at us with more next year, but
Right.
I think that's a very fair price in my experience.
What I would promise to you is next summer, when we're getting ready to think about this inspection again for the fall, we'll check in with USI. If the price is still held at the same one, that'd be something for us to consider. If we foresee that there's going to be an escalation of that price, then we would have time to go ahead and bid out some of these consultant services and see if we could get a more competitive number for you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? I will entertain a motion to,
I'll make a motion we approve supplement agreement number 5 in the amount of $22,700.
is there a second? I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. The third item we have under new business is the I-65 feasibility study selection. And Ben from the Planning Department is here to present on the proposals we have received.
Good evening, members. I won't take a ton of time to walk through the actual proposal received, just to kind of highlight a few things that I put in the email to you. After the last meeting, we talked about the desire to make sure that we weren't quote-unquote pigeonholing ourselves by only doing a market study for one use that we think might be kind of exciting and fun to have out here, but really trying to make sure we're kind of covering our bases, and that study will cover a multitude of different uses. In case one doesn't really work, we may have some others that might be a possibility out here. So what we did is we worked with, the developer has these properties under option. He works with a lot of these people on a daily basis. To reach out to 3 different firms at least who have some expertise in these fields to provide proposals back to us. And what we found, what I alluded to a little bit last time, is that there aren't many firms that have expertise or experience in each one of these areas. And the 3 areas that we're really looking to do a market study on are a multi-purpose sports complex, indoor water park and hotel, and some sort of performing arts venue. So those were the three that we really wanted to focus on that seemed most feasible for this area out here. And it seems like we've had some level of interest from groups in the last year or two relating to these different types of venues. So those are the ones we want to focus on. So we did get 3 proposals back. 2 of them, it was clear that those firms had expertise in one of those 3 categories and maybe could do the others, but they had certain expertise. So one was Hotel and Leisure Advisors. They really focused on the indoor water park part of the proposal, and they do have great experience and expertise there, but the others not so much. Victus Advisors provided one, and their focus really was on the sports and events facility and not so much on the water park. So that one, there was some hesitations there unless we wanted to hire more than one firm. And then there was one that clearly was able to address all 3 very well and had very good experience in all 3, and that's HVS, and they're a firm out of Chicago. They do a lot of convention, sports, and entertainment facilities consulting. They did in their proposal address all 3 components that we desired. What I understand from Brent, the developer, is that they also have the relationships that we're going to need post-study to reach out to those groups and try to make some connections. So he seemed very excited about this proposal and said that they had the connections we're going to need post-study to be able to start making those connections for us and really start getting this ball rolling down the road post-study. So they did propose a very extensive study looking at kind of the overall market in the area, looking at the types of facilities that might be proposed and comparing those to other communities and the sizes of their facilities and what might be feasible. They'll provide a report on each of those 3 as to what seems to be most feasible in this market, and then also do some program recommendations, for the water park. How big should the water park be? What types of facilities should be in it, and those sorts of things. So it'll be very specific to each one of those 3. We'll provide some demand projections and financial projections, and then kind of to cap off each one of those 3, they'll actually do some construction cost projections. So if you're talking about doing a 100,000 square foot water park that has these 8 different features in it, this is a $10 million resort, $20 million resort, or whatever it is. So they'll actually get to the point where we have some projections on both demand and revenue side and then install cost and construction side for each of those 3. So it is a very comprehensive study for all 3 of those different elements. It will give us some options to look at that post-project. Their proposal was a total of $89,000 for each of those components, plus $4,000 not to exceed for direct expenses like travel and out-of-pocket. So it's a total of $93,000. Be happy to answer any specific questions if you have any.
Ben, I had another question for you.
Yeah.
Were there other firms that could do 3 in 1 that expressed interest but maybe couldn't hit the deadline to get the proposal done?
I think we were trying to find 3 good, these are ones that I know Brent has worked with in the past and has relationships with, so he asked all of them to provide a proposal. Are there other firms that could at least do a component of it? Yeah. We could have spent a lot more time reaching out to folks. I know there's another firm in Chicago that I've worked with in the past. I don't think they would have done it for $89,000, though. There might have been a 2 in front of that number to get them to do it. So there are other firms that can do these things. For $89,000, I was actually pleasantly surprised that we got it for around $90,000 because I know other firms that I've reached out to in the past were quite a bit more expensive to do this kind of work. So yes, there are other firms. We could have spent a lot more time reaching out to other groups, but these were the ones that Brent is very comfortable with, and so we felt like we had a pretty good.
Okay, I saw in, I think, 2 of the 3 proposals, if not all 3, that they could do the total study in 10 weeks. Is that reasonable? Is that on par with what our schedule is looking like?
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. I was thinking 2 to 3 months, so
Okay.
That's a pretty reasonable.
So potentially January or February?
January, probably early February,
Okay.
by the time we get, because we'll have to go back through and get a contract with the Redevelopment Commission for this. So that'll take probably, I'm sure, a couple of weeks by the time we get all that worked out. So that we're probably looking at them starting in about November. So yeah, I would say February is probably a good time frame.
I noticed on the HBS proposal, they were asking for 50% down. Is that typical of these? Seems heavy.
We may talk to them about that, and they did this proposal to the developer, so it was kind of a private entity to a private entity, the proposal. I don't know if they handle it differently when they're working with a public entity. That seemed a little steep to me is why I noticed that as well.
Yeah.
So I'll probably, I haven't had any direct communications with HVS yet. It's been all through Brent. So I may talk to him about that. Obviously, if we have the funding approved, it's not a question of whether we're going to pay or not. So I may talk to them about that.
Right. And personally, I think I could see 10 or 15% down even,
Yeah, I
get them
mean,
kick-started, but
we
they're not
get them
creating
to
widgets, they're
25,
doing
yeah.
people services, right? So,
I know they'll start incurring expenses pretty quickly, but
Yeah.
that seems like an awful steep
yes,
retainer
agreed.
fee.
Any other questions or comments from the
If I
commissioners?
recall, there was some time constraints the developer had with the options. Will this satisfy those time constraints?
Yes, yeah. He may have already secured extensions on his options. I know he was working on that. Once we started discussing, and after the last meeting where there was some funding approved, knowing that we're still gonna have to go through and get proposals, I believe he was working on extending those options already.
So if you could clarify again the cost, please, that the not-to-exceed amount was 93?
Yes, it would be a total of 93, there would be 89 for the actual study itself, and then up to not to exceed amount of 4,000 for direct expenses. So they may not end up spending all that. That would just cover their travel costs to come here from Chicago. I think it's either 2 or 3 times, and then any other direct printing expenses, et cetera.
Yeah, did you have something?
And just to clarify, I know that in the email conversation that we had, or not email conversation, but the information you provided us, it was showing that we're in partnership. I just want to verify that the study does belong to the city, even though they're kind of communicating directly, if that makes sense.
Absolutely,
Okay,
100%. It would
just
be
double checking.
owned by the Redevelopment Commission of the city post-project.
And you'll be the point person, not necessarily the developer, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Brent was the one that reached out to him and got the
Okay.
proposals from him, that this will be a contract with the city of Lebanon,
Okay.
or the Redevelopment Commission, and I'll be the point person.
Any other comments or questions? I know I'd like to revisit that down payment.
Oh, yeah, I definitely will
uh,
have that conversation with him.
Before, I mean, do we want to discuss that before we approve the motion, or do we want to keep the ball rolling?
No, to answer, I also at the back end would like some retainage put in the contract. So if we are expecting it done in 10 weeks, that we have some retainage in there. If they don't meet that. I think, I was under the impression, and correct me, Ben, if it's changed, that we were time sensitive on this. I'm time sensitive because I've been involved with this property for going on 8, 9 years, I think. But I don't know you know the industry better than I do. That would be high for the contracts that I'm familiar with in the school business. But I don't know, again, I have to say, I don't know what the industry dictates. It is different. We are a public entity. The money's not a question. It's not like somebody's got to float a bond to get the dollars for them. I wouldn't mind looking at that. We can, at the same time, though, I don't think either one of us, Caleb, want to hold a project up.
Right, I agree.
But
That's where I'm
that is an exceptionally large, in my experience, exceptionally large amount of.
Is there?
If you look at the percentages, that's a big percentage of
What do
the
you guys
total.
think about giving Ben a not to exceed 20% down? If they come back and say, okay, we'll do 10% since the city's doing it.
What I would suggest is your motion would be approve the selection of HVS as the consultant, subject to finalization of contract terms. I wouldn't say you're necessarily approving this proposal specifically.
Dick,
I
saw your
would
head
support any down payment on
None?
anything like none.
Okay.
I've been involved in too many of these things with, if it was private sector and he's going to private sector doing it,
Sure.
he's asking the private sector to pay that up front. I see that.
Okay.
But not a government agency, no. I wouldn't support it whatsoever.
And to that point, then, I think Ben had an excellent suggestion that I could support, is that we approve the motion to move forward with this, but don't finalize the contract until Ben comes back. Because you're right, Dick, that may completely change their perspective, working with the public entity instead of a private
Correct.
venture. So, Ben, do you think that would work?
Yeah, I'll work with them. We'll see what they come back with, but I'll definitely suggest that. The entire funding has been approved. We're just not comfortable with the retainer fee being so high.
Yeah.
And we'll just do it. Typically, what I'm used to is a percent, each month you do a percent complete. So after the
Right.
first
Yeah.
month, if you're 10% complete, you pay 10% of the
That's-
contract.
that's-
That's
I
what
concur.
I'm used to
Yeah.
on a project like
There's some
this.
accountability through that process as well, Ben, and we maintain some, both fiscal control and also timeline control.
Okay.
Now, to that, I would ask to the commissioners, are we interested in having this firm come and present to us their proposal? And again, I say that because I have no experience, so I will readily acquiesce to Ben's expertise on this and the recommendation, but Caleb, you and Dick and Sierra
I
probably have
don't know
more
why I
experience.
want to hurry anything. It'd
Yeah.
allow
Yeah.
for some transparency too.
I'd
Absolutely.
say we're paying for it, I think it's gotta come to us.
Yeah. So I think,
You know,
you
Ben
know,
can be our lead.
I think what we might try to do is coordinate one of their visits so they can come here and talk to you.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. I'd like to,
It just might be
you
good.
guys read the proposals, I didn't get to see it, so, but I wouldn't mind.
I read a lot of proposals.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes those don't,
I wouldn't mind talking to them, just,
I mean, I think if you're comfortable with the proposal and with the amount, I think it's in the interest of time to get it, to approve the selection and the funding, and then we'll schedule one of their visits around one of your redevelopment commission meetings so
Sure.
they can be here to
That
just
may
kind of talk
also-
about their process and
yeah,
the
exactly.
outcomes.
I'd like to know how they do it.
That may provide some opportunity for audience input, community input.
yeah.
I don't know. Don't have an overwhelming number now. You know, the transparency, it can't be said that we didn't at
Exactly.
least have an opportunity. And to be quite honest, I'd like to see, not that I question their competency, but I'd like to see what the process looks like.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complex, you're looking at three distinctively different utilizations. If we get all three, let's go with that, but, yeah, I concur with that. Sorry, Ben, I didn't mean to muddy the waters on that.
No worries.
No,
No,
good questions,
I
good
think I
comments.
said, if you're comfortable with the proposal and the fee, and you're comfortable selection and then approving the fee, what I'll do is work with them to coordinate their first visit as part of the project at your,
Thank you.
at your next month's meeting.
Okay.
Commissioners, all right?
Further questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion to proceed with the selection of HVS for the not to exceed amount of 93 grand pending contract discussions and legal
So-
review.
Yeah, okay.
I also need to approve 1,000. Did you say?
I said 93 total,
Okay.
Not to
good.
exceed.
not
Good,
to
good,
exceed
good.
93
Excellent.
pending contract negotiations and legal review.
I got that.
Can that be the motion? Caleb,
Yes,
or you
that is
got
the
it?
motion.
I'll
That is the
second
first.
that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. All right, we got a couple other items on the new business. We have a request from our legal, it's Craig Vault now, right?
We are Craig DeVault, yes.
Craig
Yeah,
Vault,
legal.
okay. And, sorry, I'm just getting them all mixed
All right.
up now. There is a request for payment for services rendered back through June of 2017, I believe. Commissioners, have you received the documentation for that? Scott, could you fill us in on some of that? Or Mayor, if you have some comments?
Yeah, I can talk about this a little bit. So just to kind of, we've had some turnover on the boards. That's why we wanted to kind of why Rob wanted to send this out to kind of make clear to you guys. So this is all in relation to what was the regional pretreatment facility out in the business park, kind of in relation to Ken's Foods. You know, they have a very high-strength food waste that comes out of their facility. You know, obviously they're using a lot of eggs, a lot of food, sugars, things like that. So we had a concept 2 years ago that we would take this food waste and a third party would essentially take that waste, convert it using anaerobic digestion, convert that into methane, and then resell that natural gas. So we went through a very long process with that. At one point, the RDC hired Westler Engineering to help us from a technical standpoint. And then we are working through the process to eventually come to an agreement where there'd be some sort of financing structure where all of the legal and financial fees would have been paid out of that structure once those financing was issued. Unfortunately, that project, we could not come to terms with the company that was selected through that RFQ process. So essentially what happened is, so now Krieg now has all of these hours invested in this project, helping the city and helping the Redevelopment Commission to get this project together, and then the way we were going to pay for it kind of fell apart, right? So essentially, Krieg held on these bills for quite some time for us, but essentially we felt it was no longer moving forward. Essentially, we're kind of closing out this project saying this did not work. lessons learned for it for sure, and if we wanted to reapproach it at some point, we could kind of pick the ball back up. But for Krieg's standpoint, we wanted to kind of close it out for them. So that's essentially kind of what is the claim. I believe it's on the claims tonight, Tanya, or is this?
It is.
So it's on the claims tonight.
There.
So you don't necessarily have to have a separate motion for it, it's just part of the claims. But like I said, we had such more turnover on the RDC, we wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it, what happened with it, and why, again, we're getting essentially a legal bill from 2017 with this. So, you know, we've been trying some unique things. Some things have worked, some things haven't. Unfortunately, this is one of the ones that we wish we could have had back. I think there, like I said, there were some good lessons learned from it, and we do kind of have a different approach. And, you know, maybe it'll be valuable one day, but unfortunately couldn't make it happen this time. So, here to answer any questions if you guys have any for me with that.
No, I don't. My only comment is I feel like we're obligated to go ahead and pay it. You know, they did us a service that we asked for their help. We thought something was going to happen, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But they did all their necessary work to help us try to make that happen. Sure. And, you know, we can't control someone else. So I think it's a fee that we really should reimburse them for, in my opinion.
I concur. I was on the RDC at the time we talked about this. It was rather an exciting, innovative opportunity at the time. We were trying to look at both Kin Foods and some of the other options were there. This concept was one that was both kind of more in a green mode as well as an innovative kind of entrepreneurial mode as well. It was supposed to be somewhat self-funded in along the ways. These things happen. You know, again, as the mayor said, it's unfortunate, but I do believe that the attorneys that represented us in looking at some of the billings and things, they did their due diligence. I think it's, I don't want to be cliche and say the price of doing business, but if this had worked, we would have been in the Midwest, not only the state, but in the Midwest. The intent, we would have been a very unique and very attractive site location for a number of businesses, and that was part of this as well. So I concur, Dick, that these are obligations that we asked a representative of the RDC to fulfill. They did fulfill it. So therefore, I think we have no option but to, and I have no issues. You pay your bills. That's what we're famous for in this community. We pay our bills. So
And it's for services back a year and a half, it appears. So,
and you know, it's, again,
I mean, throughout a year and a half,
right. This just didn't
not
happen.
over a month, year and a half
Sat on it
ago.
for a while. If I understand correctly, this was an ongoing process. There were many attempts to reconfigure, regenerate, reinstitute. I'm sure there were some unique words that went back and forth. It just didn't work.
Yeah,
But I would tell you, as a commissioner at the time, I would again pursue this path because of the opportunities that a project like this presented for potential growth. Were extremely attractive at the time.
Yeah, I think there's still merit in the idea. You know, again, we were doing something fairly unique with a public-private partnership structure, how that was all going to work. So there was definitely some significant legal, issues that need to be researched and worked through, and how do we make sure we're doing this legally. So there was a lot of time invested, and yeah, I understand the bill is kind of maybe later than what we'd liked. Frankly, we didn't want to kind of close the door. We didn't want to say the project was done before it officially was done. But really, you know, now that's kind of, we're kind of wrapping the year up, and that's kind of where it, because really it wasn't officially kind of off the table until Ken's really did their own pretreatment. And then once they did that, at that point, it became not feasible. So it really didn't, there wasn't a lot of activity on it, but it wasn't officially kind of done until probably closer to this year. So. But yeah, we understand it's a long time frame on it.
Any further comments or questions?
I'd just like to make one more comment for the public that, in case they might want to know, and I'm sure Tanya's got it, but they submitted about a 21, 22-page document of all the breakdown of the hours, the time that they spent on it. So it wasn't like it was just one bill. Yeah. There's detail and hours and everything that time spent on this project. So, yeah, I think it's something that really has to be reimbursed. So.
Okay. From my understanding, this will just be approved or not through claims process?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. The next item, we need to kind of circle back and approve some meeting minutes from the last two meetings. October 12th meeting minutes,
August 12th.
August
Yeah.
12th, I'm sorry.
I think September got canceled.
And September was canceled, but we've had an October, we had a special meeting at the
The
start.
special meeting hasn't been sent out yet.
Okay, so we just need
So
to
we
approve
can
the
approve
August.
August 12th.
August is the only thing. Okay. Have you guys received the meeting minutes for August 12th? Good? Okay. I will entertain a motion to pass the meeting minutes.
I make a motion that we pass the meeting minutes from August 12th.
I second that. All in favor? Say aye. Aye?
Aye, sorry.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. Okay, and then we need to move on to the claims. We have claims from September 9th and also October 15th. Have the commissioners received a copy of those? Okay. I will motion to approve the claims for September 9th and October 15th. Do I hear a second?
Tanya's
Second.
shaking her head.
Tony?
You just signed this. I mean, unless it's been left off, but I don't know that we actually.
We don't need to make a motion for the claim, to pay the claims?
No, that's why you signed this.
Okay.
We,
I think we do need a motion to pay the claims.
so is it just not on the agenda?
It wasn't on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay,
okay.
10-4, I got you.
So I
Thank
made a
you.
motion to
Here we
pass
go.
September 9th and October 15th. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners before we adjourn? Okay. Thank you, guys. We are adjourned.
A motion to.
And motion adjourned.
I make a motion, we adjourn. Let me think about it. I don't know. Maybe we should.
Do I need to buy you a drink afterwards?
Next meeting is November 11th.
The next meeting is November 11th at 6:30 in this room. Thank you for coming out, guys.
Sign it.
Yeah, you need to sign these.